Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Since we are a reasonably small group, so I think I will keep it as informal and hopefully interactive as possible. When Ninankar asked me to speak on regional versus national political parties, I said yes as a kind of a challenge to myself, because I had never spent too much time or energy or thought on this issue. But then I said, let me use this as an opportunity to try and figure out for myself what can one do about this. So the first issue that crossed my mind is that before I think of regional and political parties, am I clear about what is a political party? And since, as Rahul here knows, when I used to teach, our mode of teaching was not to answer questions but to ask questions. And since we are a small group, I would take the liberty of asking, does anyone have a thought on what is a political party? Not BJP or Congress or Janata Dal or so and so, but a generic political party. How would you describe a political party? As I have been a student of organizations and I look at political party as an organization. But I have had difficulty trying to define a political party. So, any thoughts? Yes, sir.
A kind of an institution which is aiming to govern something or governing.
A kind of an institution which is aiming to govern something. So, primary purpose is to govern.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Anjali.
An institution that can participate in elections. I think elections is, the ability to.
Fair enough, but before we go to elections, it is assumed that there is a democracy. And a political party can only exist in a democracy. I mean, we have countries where there are political parties, but there is no democracy and there are no elections.
So you can have a political party without democracy. It may not be a political party as in a democracy, but it could be a political party.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say, that elections are not necessarily required for a political party to exist.
I'm just thinking maybe it's an affiliation of people who perhaps have a set of beliefs which are commonly shared among them and which binds them together. And the purpose is to reflect on what gentleman said, to participate in the running of a particular
Government.
place.
Yeah.
Place. I mean, government
Fair enough.
government is a
Is
form of that.
an instrument.
Is
Yeah.
an instrument. The idea would be to participate in the running of the affairs of that geography or
Yeah.
Ajay, are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm not being protesting, but I'm trying to
No.
think of so.
Political party, common beliefs, ideology, come on.
Anyway, a political party perhaps is an organization which endeavors to capture political power at any cost, even sacrificing their all, convictions, but all they exist.
Thank you very much. I think this little discussion captures it all. I first looked at the Encyclopedia Britannica.
I was going to suggest what does the Election Commission define a political party?
I will tell you.
Yeah.
That I knew before this,
Okay.
before I started thinking about this. The Encyclopedia Britannica and political science textbooks put together say political parties are collective entities and activities that organize competitions for political offices.
Competitions.
That's what it says. Election is a competition.
Yes, it is.
So I was not satisfied with this. So I went to an old friend who was a Goanese and who was a political scientist. And he sent me this, and I am quoting this. A political party is an organization that stands between the citizen and the state. It conveys the demands of the citizen upwards to the state and the policies of the state downwards to the citizen. As an organization, it performs many functions such as mobilization, recruitment, aggregation of interests, financial mobilization, incubation of leaders, agenda setting, etc. It must primarily be seen as a social organization that performs many political functions. Of course, this begs the question, what are political functions? But I heard your name is Ajay, he was referring to you that. Ajay was in a way closer to what I think in my heart. I have not studied political science, but for the last 25 years, I have been talking about political science. Like any hard-headed professor who can speak about anything under the sun. So I have been telling people that none of our political parties is a political party as it would be in political theory without knowing anything about it, because the first requirement of a political party is to have an ideology. And none of us, the political parties that we have an ideology, therefore they are not political parties, they are political formations. And I was quite happy with this discussion. But then in the Encyclopedia Britannica, I also found another entry which said many political parties are motivated by ideological goals. It is common for democratic elections to feature competitions between liberal, conservative and socialist parties. Other common ideologies of very large political parties include communism, populism, nationalism and Islamism. Political parties in different countries will often adopt similar colors and symbols to identify themselves with a particular ideology. Lal Salam, as we all know, and green, as is now becoming more popular. Then it goes on to say, however, many political parties have no ideological affiliation and may instead be primarily engaged in, answer for you, patronage, clientelism, the advancement of a specific political entrepreneur, or a big tent in that they wish to attract voters who have a variety of positions on issues. So much so for ideology. I stand corrected, ideology is not required. And if we need any proof, a current master of the art, Ajit Pawar, said this in an interview to Srinivas Jain, and I quote, this is published in the Times of India, Goa on 13th of November. He said, everyone wants power and has kept ideology aside. So much so, whatever be the theoretical or moral intention, the practically is that political parties are only interested in power.
You have Donald Trump as a big example right now.
While Trump is not even a political party, sir. Trump is Trump.
Yeah.
And now there are two, Trump and Musk. Republican Party does not exist, as far as I think.
Musk, of course, is the new first lady.
Yes. The first buddy. He's been actually, Trump has given him this designation, the first buddy. Anyway, somebody said, what does the Election Commission say about political parties? Our constitution, which as we all know is the longest written constitution in the world, did not have the word political party in it when it was adopted in 1950-51. There was no mention of the word political party at all. And that is an anecdote or a tidbit of information which not too many people know, but it is a fact. So people also go to the extent of saying that political parties are unconstitutional.
Anna Hazare says that.
Sorry?
Anna Hazare says that.
Well, Anna Hazare has said many things and we can discuss those. But the expression political party is not there in the constitution.
So it's only a small step from there to say all political parties are illegal.
It is for us to take whatever steps we want. But also in 1951, yes sir.
Sorry, even in the US Constitution, when
Yeah.
the US Constitution was written,
Yeah.
they did not specify political parties. There was no differentiation in Republicans and Democrats. It sort of developed later on, getting clues from the European, the French right wing, left wing. So there is that element. I think there is no official definition of political party.
But the German constitution has.
German Constitution.
So it is not that the expression political party is not necessarily, does not necessarily belong to a constitution. It can. And I think it should. Anyway, the Representation of People Act was enunciated or was adopted in 1951. That also did not have the word political party.
Really. Amazing.
Then in 1989, an amendment was carried out. It was called Section 29A, which was the Representation of People Act. So Section 29A of the Representation of People Act, enacted in 1989, said that the Election Commission has the power to register political parties. So one cannot call oneself a political party in India legally unless one has registered, unless the body has been registered with the Election Commission. Now the requirements for registration are fairly simple. You need 100 proposals, you need a constitution, you need, say, that you will follow allegiance to the Constitution of India and to socialism and etc. etc.
So this means for the Chhokar that if you are not for elections, you have no reason to be a political party.
No, you don't have to contest elections. I will. No, just a minute.
No.
For registration, you are not required to say that you will contest elections.
Is that so?
Absolutely. And just wait for a few minutes. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
So you can satisfy these conditions, draft a constitution and register. A party got registered in the constitution, said there will be a lifetime Karta Datta, I forget the name. It was Shiv Sena. Bal Thackeray was made lifetime boss. And that was challenged because the constitution of a political party cannot say that it will not adhere to democracy. And that had to be changed. So you can register a political party. The added kind of nugget of information is that a Supreme Court judgment in 2001, the case being Indian National Congress versus Institute of Social Welfare and others, the Congress called for a hartal in, I think, Kerala or somewhere. The earlier High Court judgment had said hartals are banned. No, it had said bands are banned. So Congress said we are calling for a hartal, not a band. So on this issue, a body called Institute of Social Welfare went to the court saying Congress has violated this judgment of the High Court, therefore they should be deregistered. They went to the High Court said whatever it said, then the Congress went to the Supreme Court, and the case is now called Indian National Congress in parentheses I versus Institute of Social Welfare. And in 2001, a two-judge bench on May 2002 said the Election Commission has power to register political parties, but the Representation of People Act does not say that it has the power to deregister political parties. So nobody can deregister a political party. The Supreme Court was kind enough to give 3 exceptions. One is when a political party has obtained registration by practicing fraud or forgery. Now, the other is where it amends its nomenclature rules saying that it will not have faith and allegiance in the constitution.
Right.
And 3, any like ground where no inquiry is called on the part of the election commission. I don't know what it means. But when we look at the first one, registration obtained with fraud or forgery, I have been personally involved in a case filed by a gentleman in Punjab against the Shiromani Akali Dal for 20 years. He has proved conclusively that there was a fraud because the Shiromani Akali Dal had given one constitution to the election commission saying we are a democratic and a secular party. They had given the same Shiromani Akali Dal had given another constitution to the Gurdwara Prabandhak Election Commission, that we are a party which can be joined only by Sikhs and Sikhnis. So this gentleman went to court saying this is forgery, and for 20 years his case has not made headway. He has gone from the Delhi High Court to the Election Commission, back to Delhi High Court, to Punjab and Haryana High Court, to the Supreme Court. He has not succeeded, and tragically the person died 2 years ago. Now one of his friends is pursuing the case. The point I am making is that none of these 3 conditions can be satisfied. Therefore, effectively, in India, once a political party is registered, it is there for ever. The world may end with nuclear bomb. Registration of a political party will not go away. So this is the animal we are dealing with. Before we come to other stuff, then we come to, somebody said, do you have to contest elections? On March 27, 2024, the Election Commission issued a notification or whatever, saying that there were 2,764 registered political parties in India. 2,764. Now, guess how many of these contest elections? About 200. 200 to 270, depending on various yardsticks. So the remaining almost 2,500 entities do not contest elections. So when we say that political parties are organizations which seek power through election, what are these 2,500 doing? What are they doing? They are enjoying exemption, 100% exemption from income tax under section 13A of the Income Tax Act, which we learned through a very tedious process. Now, we have been learning for 25 years and we are still not at all wise. So 2,500 entities are registered, they have never contested the election. So we created some ruckus about it several years ago, and the Election Commission decided to write letters to all these registered political parties. Hundreds of letters came back undelivered. The addresses did not exist, but Election Commissioner could not deregister them. So what did the Election Commission do? There is another category called recognized parties. Election Commission gives recognition to parties on certain criteria, which requires contesting elections, etc., etc. So it then sent notices to all the registered but unrecognized political parties. And again, hundreds not there. Since it cannot deregister, and these are not recognized, so it cannot unrecognize. So it issued a list that we have delisted these political parties. So we asked them, why, which is the list from which you have delisted them? There is no answer. So we have now registered political parties, recognized political parties, listed political parties, and delisted political parties. Although that listed political party list is not available, Election Commission refuses to reveal that list. Anyway, this was the kind of background. Then the Election Commission has made a distinction between national political parties, and the topic of this talk is national and regional political parties. So this topic is actually wrong and non-est, as they say, does not exist. Because as I discovered when I was trying to look at it, there is nothing called regional party in the law in the country. They are only state parties. So the definition of a national party is very complicated. Therefore, I have to read this, that the candidates set up by the party in any 4 or more states at the last general election or the status election have secured not less than 6% of the total votes polled. In addition, has returned at least 4 members to the House of the People in the aforesaid general election, or won at least 2% of the total seats in the number of the House, etc., etc. This is very complicated. But there are 3 conditions that if a party fulfills one of the 3, it will be a national party. And at the last count, when Election Commission issued a notification in 26th of March 24, there were 6 national parties. Obviously, BJP is a national party, Congress is a national party. Then there is a party called Communist Party of India, Marxist, not CPI. Then Bahujan Samaj Party is still a national political party. Aam Aadmi Party is a national political party. And there is a party called National People's Party, whose head office is in Shillong. That is also a national political party. This was news to me, I didn't know that. So there are 6 national political parties and there are 75 state parties. The breakup is available, but I don't want to go into that. I looked at, since I was here at Goa, there are apparently 3 state parties in Goa, if I am not wrong. This is the Election Commission's information. Maharashtra Gobantak Party, the symbol being the lion. Goa Forward Party with coconut as a symbol. And something called Revolutionary Goans Party with football as a symbol, which it says in the notification restricted in some northeastern states. So it's interesting, there is a state party which is restricted in some states, whereas other state parties in the same state are not restricted. I don't understand this, but this is what the notification says. This was also as of March 24. When did these state parties from now on, because there are no regional parties, when and how did state parties come into focus? The first time this issue arose was in 1959, when the first ever elected communist government in the world, please know, first ever elected communist government. There have been and there still are communist governments all over the world, but they have not been elected in a free and fair election. Of course, Chinese party is always elected, and in Russia also they are elected. So the first ever elected communist government in Kerala was dismissed by the Union government on July 31, 1959. That is when it first came to notice that a state party which has formed a government in the state, the constitution provided under, I think, Article 356, but nobody had thought that this would happen. So this happened for the first time in July 1959, and that is when I think people started thinking about state parties as independent entities. Remember, that was the time when Congress was at its peak. Kerala was perhaps the outlier, and the government got dismissed. And then subsequently, state parties have been at the receiving end of the union government in various things. We don't need to talk about them because we all know them. However, the last time it was, I think, the most blatant was July 1, 2017, when the GST bill was passed in a midnight session, just like the session where we made a tryst with destiny. GST was a law which put state parties and state governments at a disadvantage, in my opinion. So, state parties have often been in the radar of the so-called national parties when they come to power in different states. Now, when we look at the differences between national and state political parties, I think the major difference obviously is that national political parties should have either a focus across the whole nation or at least across a significant number of states. A party which is active in Punjab and Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, I would hesitate to call it a national political party. Although it can win national political party status because Bahujan Samaj Party with no government anywhere and no member of parliament still has that status. So you can do that jugglery, but I think the difference would be on the issues on which they focus. And therefore, parties like, let's say, Biju Janata Dal would never be, I think, national parties or will even aspire to be national parties. Aam Aadmi Party, of course, aspires. And therefore, they came and contested elections here also, they went to all kinds of places. So, I think the fundamental difference is the issues on which a party focuses, if there is any such thing. I say if there is any such thing because most of the parties don't focus on any issues at all. I don't know what they do. The so-called double engine sarkar, this expression is a very appropriate descriptor of regional and state and national parties. It makes it clear that if the state government, regardless of the party, does not toe the line of the union government, it will be at a perennial disadvantage. And this is what comes to light very often in when the National Finance Commissions are formed. Those of us who remember in the 15th Finance Commission, which was headed by this person called N.K. Singh, the finance ministers of the 5 southern states had got together and they protested to the Finance Commission that what they were contemplating to do was going to be unfair to the southern states. Because the southern states, their economic performance has been better than the northern states, and since their social performance has also been better, like in healthcare and so on, and family planning, their population growth has been less than the northern states. And the 15th Finance Commission was planning to link economic allocations to the population. and the five southern states got together and tried to negotiate. Of course, now we have the 16th Finance Commission, which is headed by a person called Arvind Panagriya, who was the first deputy chairperson of the Niti Aayog when the Niti Aayog was formed.
These five chief ministers didn't have a BJP chief minister among them, did they?
Today you do, but at that time maybe you didn't.
Today there is no BJP chief minister in the south.
Well, then that's what I'm saying, they got together.
No, what I'm saying is, with the NKC commission, the five,
Yeah,
did they have any BJP chief minister?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I thought you were saying they had a BJP chief.
No, I'm saying they did not.
There wasn't.
Yeah.
So now, of course, we have this Panagriya Commission, which is supposed to give recommendations for 5 years commencing April 2026. Those decisions or those recommendations will be made now, and we will again be faced with the same situation, because the situation has become, if anything, more acute with some sources saying that a census will be held in 25 and delimitation may also be held in 26 and so on. So, mind you, the government hasn't said so, only sources have said so.
I thought there was something in the papers about the census thing having been begun.
No,
Process is begun.
no. And the information has been leaked by through sources. There is no government person who has said anything about it.
Yes.
I am quite clear about that. Then state parties also face coercion. Again, from the union government and the party. When I say union government, I mean the party in power. As a matter of fact, my general belief and approach is, I am not interested in the government. Because governments come and go, or governments remain depending on Article 311 of the Constitution. The steel frame which is now corroded remains. But parties in power come and go. So the party in power at the center often is coercive to state parties who are in power in the states, withholding grants. For example, I believe Karnataka or some state wanted to give rice at cheaper rates to the population, and they wanted to buy it from the Food Corporation of India, and the Food Corporation of India refused to sell it to them. I mean, this kind of coercion can happen. GST contributions, states don't get what their share is supposed to be under the agreements arrived at the GST Council. And some states get and some don't get. Double engine sarkar states get. And of course, we have recently been hearing that a number of projects were moved from Maharashtra to Gujarat, which some people are trying to make it to an election issue. Now, all this leads to this concept called federalism. State parties, I think, are a source which supports federalism. Stronger the state parties, stronger will federalism be. And federalism, by the way, is, our constitution is not obviously or clearly federal. It is supposed to, some people call it quasi-federal. But federalism is ingrained in several articles of our constitution. And those of you who are familiar with what is called the basic structure doctrine, which came through the Kesavananda Bharati judgment, which incidentally was a 7-6 judgment, which is very often quoted, but it came on a majority of 1. In the federal structure doctrine, every single judgment of the Supreme Court over the years, which has mentioned the elements of the basic structure, federalism is one permanent feature. So federalism cannot be taken out of the constitution under any way, shape or form, and state parties are in a way, this is perhaps saying too much, they symbolize the spirit of federalism. Well, each state has its own existence and therefore it has its own parties. This takes me to the last issue, which I thought worth mentioning, the issue of one nation, one election. That again is a assault is a bad word on state parties. If one nation, one election ever happens, I believe, and I genuinely believe it will never happen. If it ever happens, it will be harmful to state parties. And national parties will have a very clear advantage, and then perhaps over time we may see that there may be no state parties, which incidentally has also been said by the then president of a national party, that our plan is to work with all our state partners and gradually merge them into us. Which we have seen, I mean, Maharashtra of course is a case in point. There used to be 3 parties and now there are 6. What will happen after this election, nobody knows. Bihar has seen an interesting set of events. And Orissa. BJD was a very favored and a loyal partner of the BJP. But in the last Lok Sabha election, tables turned. So I believe national parties should not be trying to subvert state parties. Because state parties are a very important element in the spirit of federalism. And national parties should, this is a very sad thing because anything all of us say should happen never happens. National political parties should learn to live with state parties. Not, seduce them for 3 years or 5 years and then kill them. What is also called bait and switch strategy. So this I think is the larger situation vis-a-vis national and state parties. I think state parties will stay, they will struggle. And I think their stay would be good. And I guess that's all I have to say, and I am open to questions if anybody has any. Thank you very much.